Some big news here in New Britain. Stanley Black Decker leaders have announced that they will close one of their facilities and lay off half of their workforce.
And so that means 300 based employees in New Britain will lose their jobs. Your reporter Roger Susanin is live outside the soon-to-be shut down factory with the details. So Roger, what's causing these mass layoffs?
Good morning, ladies. You know, the answer is pretty heartbreaking. According to Stanley Black Decker company leaders, most of the 300 employees, predominantly here on Myrtle Street, make these products, these one-sided tape measures. Now, the problem is, according to these company leaders, is that fewer and fewer people are buying these tape measures because of more modern technologies. Stanley Black Decker's Connecticut success story began way back in the mid-1800s. The brand grew to become the world's largest power and hand tool company. Right now, 600 employees are based right here in New Britain. But company leaders just announced that 300 of those workers will soon be out of a job. Executives say the problem is those employees predominantly make one-sided tape measures, and those tools are quickly becoming obsolete. Stanley leaders did not announce a timeline for when the layoffs will happen, but tell Channel 3 they'll retain their New Britain headquarters, and it's possible some of the workers who are laid off could be offered positions at other locations throughout the company. Dan Haar, a columnist and senior editor at Hearst Connecticut Media, says this decision is the end of an era and possibly a sign of things to come.
Old line general manufacturing was a staple of Connecticut economy not too many years ago, less so now. And so it's a blow both, sort of in the heartstrings of Connecticut, but also economically.
And back live now. So this is one of the things that is replacing the old school one-sided tape measures, these AI-powered apps. They're used for more casual jobs. And then there are also digital tape measures that contractors use for more complicated jobs. Again, this product, sadly, that we've seen for generations in Connecticut, apparently on the way out, at least becoming less important. And again, 300 workers will soon be laid off here at Stanley. Reporting live in New Britain, I'm your reporter, Roger Susanin, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.